Hi everyone, my name is Kaylie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Okay everybody, happy or Merry Christmas Eve. Okay, I'm putting this a little bit further into the video because I'm embarrassed that I'm crying. I just want to apologize to you guys for these videos being late, but my computer isn't working and I can't get anything to work right now and I'm getting so
emotional, damn it.
So I'm going to bring you guys up close. There we go. Okay, so for those of you who may be new here, I'm going to do my quick usual little rundown for most of the video. I will be looking in this direction because my mirror's over here and I would like to see what I'm doing. I do tell these story times in a first person point of view, so if you don't like that, then you can leave.
There's the door. There's the door, bitch!
And these story times are sent in by anonymous people. Okay, let's get into today's story time. Okay, story time about how my best friend thought that I was in love with her boyfriend. So a little background information, I was 17 and a senior in high school, but we're gonna rewind just a little bit so that way you guys can kind of get a feel for how close my best friend Maggie and I were. So our moms had both met at this Mommy and Me swim class, and ever since then, Maggie and I pretty much did everything together. At least until we were like 4 years old, because then our moms actually had a falling out, and then we didn't see each other again until we got into like kindergarten. Anyways, but when I tell you that this girl was like my sister, she was literally like my sister. I didn't have any siblings, but if I did, she's the closest thing to it. And I'm not just saying that because, you know, we've grown up together and known each other our whole lives. No, I'm saying because the shit that her and I have been through, some people don't ever go through shit like this with their best friends. Like, for example, her older sister had unalived herself, and Maggie found her after she unalived herself in the bedroom that they shared when she came home from school that day. And because of this, my mom ended up letting me stay at Maggie's house for the next month because of how depressed Maggie was. Also because after this, Maggie had tried to unalive herself a few times because her and her sister were extremely close and she was just super distraught, I think that's the right word, over the loss of her sister. And you know, there was that situation, and then there was also the situation whenever I was around 14 years old. There was this boy that I really liked and I was going over to his house to hang out with him for the first time ever. Now, this kid's dad worked at our school, and to be honest, he's really not important in this story, just in this part, but we're gonna call him Matt. Anyways, now a little thing about our teacher, Matt. Everybody in school called him a pervert. Okay? Like, he was a creep because he would purposely drop things and look up girls' skirts, or he would just be super touchy with the girls. He was a total weirdo, but I never thought that he would try to do anything as terrible as what happened. I want to put a little essay trigger warning in here, okay? I'm going to put the timestamp right here. Skip to this part of the video. Nothing too important happens here, just background of how Maggie and I got so close. Okay. Anyway, so you know, I go over there and Maggie told me that she wanted me to check in with her every hour that I was there because she had experienced Matt being extremely weird to her when she had him as a teacher firsthand. Like, he would wink at her in class, and whenever she would ask for help, he would come over and look down her shirt, and he was always like having his hand on her shoulder, and like, you know, it was just disgusting. Okay, he was a weirdo. So I end up going over his house and nobody was home. It was just him. So we went into the living room, we watched movies and sat on the couch, and I made sure that I was checking in with her every hour. And then we hear Matt come into the house, and he comes into the living room and sits on the couch next to me. So I have his son on one side of me and then I have him on the other side, and that's whenever they try to SA me. Yeah, yeah. I don't really know how, but I was able to make it upstairs into one of the bathrooms, and I hurried up and texted Maggie to call 911 and call my mom. Some stuff did end up happening to me, but the cops got there like right after, and then Maggie and my mom came. But Maggie was there for me through all of that. Like, she would not leave my side for the next like 3 months. And it wasn't even like I was overly emotional about the situation. From what happened to her sister, she didn't want me to do the same thing. So yeah, that's a background of how close her and I were. Okay. now we're going to move on to Maggie and I's freshman year in high school. So Maggie and I kind of kept to ourselves for the first few weeks of our freshman year, and then we ended up meeting this girl who we're gonna call Jada. And Jada was one of our friends, but she wasn't somebody that hung out with us all the time. She was that one person who had multiple friend groups, and she would hang out with whoever whenever she wanted. Well, then fast forward, eventually we meet this group of boys and we become best friends with them. But the one boy who we became super close with, his name was Kane, which it's literally crazy because Kane and I lived 2 houses down from each other for like the past 11 years, and we had no idea. Like, this isn't a cliche. Oh my god, Kane and I have been besties since forever because we live so close to each other. Even though I wish that was the case, it was not. Anyways, I do wish that I would have paid more attention to the fact that him and I lived so close to each other, because him and I became super close. We were like 2 peas in a pod. He was way closer with me than he was with Jada or Maggie. But yeah, every day after we met, him and I would sit next to each other on the bus and hang out at each other's houses. Okay, now I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background information on Maggie's love life. So Maggie was the type of girl who always needed to be in a relationship. And when I say always, I mean always. She needed that validation, and she was also just very afraid of being alone. And luckily for her, it was very easy for her to quickly find a new man anytime after she would get out of a relationship. Not for the right reasons though. Guys knew that she put out super fast, but they also knew that they had to be dating her in order for her to put out. So these guys would ask her out, and then they would start dating, and then they would have sex, and then some would stick around only for the sex, and then some would just dip and block her right after and never speak to her ever again. As her best friend, this was an awful cycle to watch. But I didn't want to sit there and tell her, hey, you're acting desperate, or hey, you're putting out way too easily. 1, because I just didn't have the heart, and 2, she literally just wanted to be loved. But you know what? The guys who stuck around actually did more damage than the guys who just ghosted her afterwards. Because, you know, they would, quote, date my best friend, and then they would go and hook up with other girls, and then, you know, she would confront them, and sometimes she wouldn't even confront them because she was scared that they were going to break up with her if she confronted them about cheating. Crazy, I know, right? But, you know, some of them would just send apology texts and be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I know that I made you super upset. I'll never do it ever again. And then they would be like, you know, yeah, so sorry. Can I see you and make it up to you? She would say yes, and then they would have sex, and then the cycle would repeat until they found a girl that they actually liked, and then they would break up with her. Like I said, vicious, mean cycle. Anyway, so that pretty much sums up my best friend Maggie's love life. But back to Kane and I. So him and I had became best friends in like September, and then in November, rumors started going around that he liked me. Not just liked me, like he had feelings for me. All of our friends knew this, and they all had told me about this multiple times, even though he never wanted me to know that he liked me. Which I had feelings for him as well, but I was so caught up in my own life with friends and school that I didn't have time for a boyfriend, and I didn't want one. But he was the only boy that I actually have had feelings for. He was literally the sweetest thing ever. Like, y'all would have thought that we were dating just off the way that he treated me. Like, during lunch, they would have a time where you could go up and get dessert, and he would go up and get something for himself, but he always made sure to get me something as well with his own money that he made working at his dad's auto shop. And I thought it was funny because he would never get anybody else anything. Like, he would only get shit for me. I mean, if one of our friends asked him to get them something, he would, but like, if nobody else asked, I was just, him getting dessert for me was like a daily routine. Anyway, so fast forward to a few days before Thanksgiving break. What do you know? Maggie's boyfriend has just dumped her because he was going on vacation to Ocean City, and she tried justifying this by saying that the reason why they broke up before he went was in case he wants to do something with another girl while he's there, it wouldn't be considered cheating because they're broken up. What the? Which I don't really know how that makes any sense at all, because y'all just shouldn't be in a relationship at that point. But anytime that I was like, oh, that's a little sus, you know, she would be like, I've been in a relationship and I know. It's better that they do it when you guys are broken up and then you guys get back together and it's like they never cheated.
And y'all gonna laugh at me.
I'm not gonna laugh at you. I promise you we're not gonna laugh.
All right, whatever you say, Maggie. And I know you guys are probably wondering, well, how the do you respond to this shit whenever she like tells you this shit? At some point, I just learned to stop responding. I'm usually just like, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, 100%. Like, trust me, I'm not sitting here saying,
Oh my god, he's such a good boyfriend for that. Oh my god, like he's amazing. Marry him. Blah, blah, blah.
no, we do not condone that shit. But you can lead a horse to water, you cannot force it to drink. So I would give her the advice and she would never listen. And at that point, it was like I was beating a dead horse. Y'all get the metaphors. Anyway, so you know, she's trying to text him over break. He's not answering the phone at all, which was super annoying because these boys never knew that like I had to deal with this shit after. Well, actually, they just didn't care. But like I had to deal with this shit. I had to deal with the crying. I had to deal with all of that. It was just ridiculous. Well, then finally she gets a message from him saying that he doesn't want to be with her. He's like, I don't want to be with you. I never really liked you. You need to move on.
Oh my God.
Ouch. Actually, ouch. Listen to me, y'all. If I had been dating somebody for a little bit and they just sent me that, I would have felt like my heart was stomped on. Literally. So, you know, she comes over to my house for a sleepover. She is crying. Completely understandable, though. And then she immediately stops crying and she's like, I need a rebound. And you know what? I also just need to be a hoe for a little bit. And I couldn't believe my ears. I'm like, really? And she was like, yeah, I'm being serious. I'm tired of relationships. I'm just so tired of them. Which, I mean, shit, if I were her, I would be too. So then she's like, I want to rebound, but I don't want to rebound with somebody that I don't know. That's just weird. So I think I might try to get Kane. Or I think I might try to use Kane as a rebound. We all must be living the same lives because my ex and I were best friends in our friend group and I used him as a rebound over some other guy. We need to stop doing that, y'all, for real. Like, we need to stop actually picking guys that we're friends with to use as rebounds because that just it doesn't work. It does not. I mean, okay, sometimes it works, but if you guys really are, you just don't want it to ruin the friend group, you know? Creates an awkward situation there. Anyways, so I give her a certain look because she knows that I like him. And she knows that he likes me. And then she goes, well, I mean, actually, if it bothers you, I won't do it. It's just that, you know, we're all way closer with him and I would feel more comfortable with it being him than anybody else. Especially, I don't want to do something with somebody I don't know. I don't want to be a slut. And I'm thinking to myself, says, come on now. We all know the only requirement you have before you go spreading your legs is for someone to ask you to be in a relationship. That same day, you are willing to open your legs. And it could be with somebody that she's never even talked to in her life. Be so for real. Be so for real. And I'm like, it's not that I don't want you guys to hook up, you know, because I don't want to date him right now or anything, but I just think it's gonna ruin our friend group, especially if one of y'all ends up catching feelings, me talking about her. And then she goes, well, that wouldn't happen. Because no offense, I feel like if y'all hooked up, you would get attached to him. But myself, on the other hand, I can turn my feelings off like that and hook up with anybody and not think twice about not speaking to them again. And I'm thinking to myself, we are talking about the bitch who literally posts on her Snapchat story, not even her close friends, on her actual Snapchat story, a picture of her crying and saying, I hate being used. I just want someone to love me for real. Like, sis, you out of all people turning your feelings off is crazy. So y'all, right now, I'm trying as best as I can to bite my mother tongue because I wanted to go off on her. Like, one, I have never had a boyfriend, so don't ever compare yourself to me, especially because of the fact that I also, number two, have never needed a validation from a guy. I've never talked to a guy. I've never wanted to be in a relationship with a guy. My life is not revolved around men, but I just let it slide. I let it slide and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to date him anyway, so yeah, go ahead. Oh, and y'all aren't gonna believe this one. And then she just click, and all of a sudden I hear the phone ringing. Bitch had him already, his contact up and ready to press call before she even told me about it. Didn't even think twice about how I might feel, especially whenever she knew that I liked him. And then she presses call, like I said, and then she puts it on speaker, which was definitely not fucking needed. Ladies, I feel like this should be a lesson, but you know what? We're gonna save this for next time, okay? We need to stop letting men come in between us, okay? Okay. Like, do you think Bob the Builder is going to sit there and pick you, who he's been talking to for the last 4 months, over his best friend, Ronald McDonald, that he met at a fucking bar last night? 99.99999% of the time, absolutely fucking not. So we need to start implementing that type of energy into our lives, okay? Bros over hoes, chicks over dicks. Say it with me. 1, 2, 3. Chicks over dicks. Yes, there we go. There we go. Now let's get on with this fucking story. I'm tired of this shit. So like I said, whole time she got her phone in her hand, ready to press call on this man. And then as soon as I say fine, she goes, okay, click, not needed. But I guess she was just excited. Anyway, so she calls him literally 4 times, and then he finally picks up the phone and he's like, yo, what do you want? And she's like, hey Kane, I was wondering if you wanted to like hang out tonight. And he was like, it's literally 12 o'clock, how are you gonna get here? And then she goes, well, I'm at our bestie's house right now, so like I can just sneak over. And then he's like, oh, is she gonna come too? And she was like, no. I tried talking her into coming, but like she's being lame and saying that she's tired and she wants to go to sleep. Talking about me in front of me, which, you know, I'm not gonna be an L man. I'm not gonna do that, okay? So I just let her keep going, but listen, y'all, I could not stop. I could not control my eyes from rolling into the back of my head. It was like a natural reaction, and yeah, because 1, I wasn't tired, and 2, I was only staying home because I didn't want to be an L man or a cock block. So then he's like, well, it's late, what would you want to do? And then she's like, I don't know, I was just thinking that we could watch a movie or something. And literally, y'all, he sounded so unamused while he was on the phone with her, like extremely uninterested. So then he goes and he texts me while he's on the phone with her, and he's like, hey, can you come with Maggie to my house? I really don't want to hang out with her alone. And I was like, I can't because she has something in store for both of you. And then he's like, oh my God, what is it? He's like, I can't deal with this right now. And then I just don't answer his text, and I let Maggie keep trying to riz him up, you know? And she does. So at about 1 in the morning, she sneaks over to his house, and then at around, I think she said like 3 in the morning, she got back to my house. And when I woke up in the morning, this girl was practically like bouncing off the fucking walls, ready to tell me what is going on with her and Kane. She's like, oh my God, I have so much to tell you about what happened last night. And I'm like, okay, what happened? And she's like, well, listen to this. I got over there and he asked me if I wanted anything to eat or drink, and then we went into his room and we watched some movies and we cuddled for a little bit, and then we ended up fucking, and then he like cuddled me for a little bit afterwards too. And I've never had a guy do that before. Sis seemed super happy, way too happy. I was not feeling it. And then I'm like, oh, well, do you feel like you're over your ex now? And she was like, oh my God, definitely. I completely even forget what that guy's name is. Like, to be honest, I have feelings for Kane, and I'm gonna tell him tomorrow. I should have seen this coming. It's not even a plot twist. I should have saw this coming. I feel like a fucking idiot right now. Cause now I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. What happened to turning your feelings off? And then Maggie goes, well, that was before, okay? Before I knew that he had feelings for me too. Like, if 2 people have feelings for each other, they should be in a relationship. And I'm like, oh, he told you he has feelings for you? And I'm not gonna lie, I was upset about this. Even though I know that sounds so selfish, like, I was very, very, very upset about this. Because the whole time I thought he liked me and he really actually liked her. But then this bitch, oh my God. Do you know what she fucking says? Well, actually, I'll tell you what I said. I was like, oh, he told you he had feelings for you because I thought he still liked me. And then she was like, no, he doesn't like you. He hasn't even talked about you in like a week. We haven't been in school for almost a fucking week, you dingbat.
Dingbat, listen!
And then she goes, no, he didn't have to verbally express that he liked me and he had feelings for me. I could just tell because not only were we so connected physically while we were having sex, but spiritually and emotionally, I could feel his body telling me. So that's how I know that he has feelings for me. And to be honest, he's over you now. You had your chance when you knew he liked you. And then she goes, actually, I'm gonna tell him that I have feelings for him now. And I'm like, why are you gonna do it now? Don't you wanna wait to see if like you actually have feelings for him and it's not just like a heat of the moment thing? And then she has the nerve to say to me, the person who doesn't care about guys at all, she's like, I'm not gonna lie, I just really feel like you're gonna tell him that you have feelings for him before I do, and you're gonna try to change his mind about how he feels about me.
Bruh.
Listen, y'all, I knew Maggie had issues. I knew she did, and I accepted her for those. I really did. But I didn't know that they were this bad. This bitch is batshit crazy. Like, girl, I am your best friend. I'm your bitch. Why are you acting like this towards me? And I just want to put it out there, okay? I would have never did that. That's not me. Even last night, whenever he was texting me, y'all even saw, I didn't entertain it. Like, my morals come before any male or anything, to be honest. Like, I have a set of morals and I will stick to those to the day that I die. I didn't want to date him yesterday and I don't want to date him today. Even after you told me that you have feelings for him. So, you know, then she texts Kane while she's at my house. He doesn't respond. Her mom picks her up, takes her home. And literally 2 minutes after she left, Kane texts me and he's like, hey, can we talk? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I'm not gonna lie, I was confused about why he wanted to talk because I felt like there was nothing for us to talk about. All of that shit was none of my business. Anyway, so, you know, he came over and it's funny because he told me that he was actually waiting for Maggie to leave my house because I guess that his house has like this ring camera on the outside and it picks up whenever somebody drives past his house. So every time that it went off, he checked to see if it was Maggie's mom's car. Just thought that was funny. Anyway, so he comes over and he's like, so I'm guessing Maggie told you what happened last night. And I'm like, yeah, do you like her? And he's like, no, I really don't like her at all. I barely like her as a friend. She's too over emotional for me. Like, I didn't even want to do anything with her last night, but she is, you know how she is, she's desperate. She started telling me about her ex-boyfriend and how he did her wrong, and then she kissed me and I kind of pulled away, and then she started crying more and she started telling me that she was sorry and that she understands if she hates me. Honestly, understands if I hate her. Honestly, it was a really traumatic experience for me. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, damn, that does sound traumatic. I cannot imagine actually, like, y'all, if I had somebody over my house and I didn't want to do anything with them and they started to try to guilt trip me, like, those are like the people that tell you they're gonna unalive themselves if you don't, if you break up with them. And I do not stand for that shit. If y'all have watched my previous videos, y'all already know how I feel about that. Stay away. And if there are guys watching this video, y'all need to stay away from women like that as well. Y'all need to stay away from the women who are overly manipulative and the ones that like to play victim. But you have to realize the difference between the two, okay? I don't want you thinking that every girl is manipulative and, you know, likes to play victim. But I'm talking about the ones that, you know, if you don't want to do anything with them, you just need to tell them straight up. Don't be feeling bad. That goes with anybody. Because if there's one thing that I'm not gonna do, I'm not about to be manipulated by anybody. Baby. Take that shit over there. Thank you. Anyways, and then he goes, and then she kissed me again, and I didn't pull away that time because I didn't want to upset her, and then, you know, it was really just like out of pity. And I was like, oh, well, you should probably tell her that. And he was like, well, I actually wanted to come over here and tell you something before I answer her message. And then he pulls out his phone and he reads the message that he sent her, that she sent him. And she goes, hey, Kane, I was gonna tell you this last night whenever I was at your house, but I felt like it would have been too much for you to process. But I want to tell you that I have feelings for you. And I've had them for you since we first met. Which honestly, she probably has had them for him since they first met because she fucking likes everybody. Anyways, back to what Maggie was saying. So yeah, she goes, I liked you ever since I met you, and you know what, last night just confirmed it for me. Now that I know that you feel the same way about me, I think that we should give us a chance. And if you're scared about anybody coming in between us, don't worry, I'll make sure that doesn't happen. And she was referring to me because she also says, and if you're scared to tell her that you like me, don't worry, I already told her. And I'm like, okay, so Kane, what does this have to do with me? And then he's like, well, I wanted to come over here and tell you that I don't have feelings for her. I have feelings for you. Period, point blank. And I'm like, okay, so my response to you having feelings for me determines whether you date her or not. Also, how do you have the nerve to come over here and tell me that you have feelings for me after you just had sex with my best friend? And he just looks at me like a deer in the headlights. And then I just decided to be honest with him. I'm like, listen, Kane, like originally I did have feelings for you. I really did. And I have had feelings for you since a little bit after we met. But I'm too busy with life and school and friends right now for a boyfriend. And honestly, with everything that's happened within the past like 13 hours, it's not a good idea. This also could cause a lot of problems between me and Maggie, and I don't want that. Can we just give a round of applause? I'm so proud of this bitch. She really said, chicks over dicks. Fuck you. I don't care if I have feelings for you. She's been my bitch. We've been through a lot, and I'm not finna do that to her. Maggie, on the other hand, anyways, so yeah, I'm like, I really don't want there to be any problems between Maggie and I. Like, that's my best friend. That is my girl. So then he's like, okay, I get that. And then he leaves and goes home. After this, things were extremely awkward. Like, the next day was gonna be our first day back at school. I get on the bus, he doesn't sit with me. And in first period, Maggie and I are talking, and she's like, did you say something to Kane? Because he hasn't responded to what I said to him. And everybody's saying that he's like super depressed. Like, girl, come on. One, you literally texted him yesterday. Give that man a minute to breathe. You pretty much told him that he likes you, even though you know he's liked me for the past 2 months. Baby, stop being crazy. Like, you did this to yourself. And then I'm like, no, I didn't message him. Maybe he's trying to process his feelings. I don't fucking know. Like, just give him a little bit more time. And then she goes, you know what? Yeah, you're so right. Fast forward to lunch, he doesn't sit next to me. He sits on the complete opposite side of the table of me. And he was wearing his hoodie the whole day. And while we're at lunch, Maggie comes over to me and she's like, see what I mean by he's depressed? And I told you that he doesn't like you anymore. He hasn't even got you a dessert today. And I'm like, girl, it's been 1 fucking day. So this was really getting on my nerves. Like, I should have punched her in the face. Just kidding. We do not condone violence. Never that. But I should have told her to shut the fuck up. Anyway, so yeah, he pretty much just had his head down the whole time, playing on his phone, not talking to anybody at all. And then after school that day, we ended up having a bunch of snow days. So like, we got an extra 3 days off of school, and I just hung out at home the whole time. So on that 3rd day, I get put into a group chat with all the boys, and they're like, hey, will you please forgive Kane? Like, he's super depressed right now, and he's really sorry for sleeping with Maggie. And then I text them back, and I'm like, I'm not even mad at him. I was never mad at him. He's the one who stopped talking to me. Well, fast forward a month, things have stayed exactly the way that they were that first day back at school after Thanksgiving break. Meaning he still was super standoffish, wouldn't talk to me, barely talked to anybody. Well, our school was having a winter formal dance, and that was happening on the last day of school before our Christmas break. But Maggie told me that she had a plan to ask Kane to the winter formal, even though they literally haven't talked to each other since like November 18th or 19th. And she's literally had 4 boyfriends since then, since she confessed her feelings to him. Like, that is 3 new bodies. 4, actually. 4. But hey, I'm not judging. I am not judging.
Why the fuck you lying?
Okay, who am I kidding? I'm completely judging. Because listen here, how are you gonna say that you have feelings for a guy, you still have feelings for him, and then go and try to be in 4 other relationships and say that you have feelings for them as well? It just doesn't make any sense to me. But then again, a lot of things that she was doing weren't making sense to me at all. It must be because, you know, as Maggie says, I've never been in a relationship, so I don't get it. I guess I really do not. No, but seriously though, she literally never fails to remind me that she's been in more relationships than I have been in anytime that I give her advice that she doesn't like. But now that I think about it, the only time that I actually give her advice is whenever she asks me to. So maybe she should just stop asking me. I think that would solve all of our problems. What do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comments. Anyway, so fast forward 2 days before the winter formal dance, Maggie is all ready to ask Kane to the formal dance. So I'm sitting in the cafeteria eating lunch, talking to Jada, whenever Maggie walks in with this huge poster board asking him to the winter formal and to be her boyfriend. That is just fucking embarrassing. I mean, you know what though? Shoot your shot. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So, you know, she walks over to him and she asks him, and when I tell you I have seen some things in my life that give me secondhand embarrassment, okay? Nothing compared to this. Nothing compared to this situation, okay? She walks over to him, he has his head down, he's playing on his phone, and then he looks up at her, and she's like, Kane, will you be my boyfriend and will you go to the winter formal with me? And he just stares at her. And then he looks at all of us. And then he just nods his head yes. And she dropped the poster board and she gave him a big hug and she starts crying. You would have thought that she got proposed to. Like I said, secondhand embarrassment. You know what though? I'm not gonna lie. I think the only reason why she asked him to be her boyfriend in public was because she knew that Kane was too nice of a person to say no. Yep, he was not gonna embarrass her like that. Anyways, you know, I'm not a hater though. I was happy for her. Like, go off, sis. You got the man that you wanted. So now we're gonna fast forward to our senior year in high school. And the past 3 years, Kane and Maggie have been very on and off, as you would expect with the way that they started out. But most of it was him trying to tell her that he didn't have feelings for her and he didn't want to be in a relationship anymore. And then she would guilt trip him and be like, oh, you're just like all my exes, you only use me for sex, blah, 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 blah. Which this definitely wasn't the case, okay? Because listen, Kane was a good looking guy. He could have sex with anybody he wanted to, I'm not even gonna lie. But throughout the past 3 years, Kane and I, we've been in an awkward standstill with our friendship. Obviously, we don't hang out, we don't text, we don't sit next to each other on the bus or at lunch anymore. The only time that we talk is whenever Maggie's talking to both of us at the same time. Also, throughout the past 3 years, there have been 2 times where Kane has came to my house in like the middle of the night, drunk as hell, and my room is on the first floor, so he was just able to like sneak through the window or knock on the window, and then I would let him in and then he would sneak through the window. But the only times that he did this were whenever him and Maggie were broken up. And I know you guys are probably thinking, sis, I thought that you had morals. Okay, well listen, because it's not that. Anyways, on those 2 occasions, he came to my house and he knocked on my window and he would literally be in tears telling me about how sorry he is that he ever did anything with Maggie and he wants to be with me instead and he doesn't know how to break things off with her. He's been trying to for a while and I don't entertain that shit. I just tell him to leave because I'm sorry, but like, we're turning into adults. You need to figure out how to deal with that. Sorry, not my situation, not my problem. And I'm not about to get involved, especially with the way that Maggie's been acting during their relationship. Anyway, so like I said, we're in our senior year and Maggie had surprised Kane and I with a vacation to Miami that her parents paid for. And this wasn't just like an out of the blue thing. This was for our spring break trip, because we didn't want to go on the senior trip that a lot of the other kids were going on. Just wasn't our vibe. But I was super excited and not at the same time because I really just didn't want to third wheel. But it was either stay home and do nothing over spring break or go with them. And also Maggie really wanted me to go because we knew that we weren't going to be going to the same colleges. So yeah, I just decided, fuck it, I'm just gonna try to have a good time. But then this is where shit starts to go south real quick. So here was the first issue, right? Her parents got our flights, you know, they bought our tickets, but they accidentally put me next to Kane and they put Maggie 4 rows in front of us. And we begged and pleaded with the flight attendant to let us just switch seats. But because it was such a full flight, you know, spring break, Miami, I don't really gotta explain. No, they were not making any accommodations for anybody. So I'm sitting next to Kane and my phone dies, and you know, he kind of realizes that I'm just like sitting there, you know, staring at everything because I didn't even get the window seats. And then, you know, he's like, hey, do you want to watch this movie on my phone? And I said, yeah, you know, there's 2 hours left in the flight. So he gives me one of his AirPods and we're sitting there watching the movie, and he has his iPad like set up on the tray in front of him, and you know, we're watching the movie. I fall asleep, my head on his shoulder. Worst thing ever that could have happened, because Maggie's been getting up like every 20 minutes to go to the bathroom, and she has to walk past us to get to the bathroom. Well, she was not happy about this, understandably, but she goes and reaches over the guy that is sitting in the aisle seat, and she taps me really hard, and she goes, I don't think my boyfriend wants to be used as a pillow. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sorry, I was not intentionally trying to use him as a pillow, but I will remember that for next time. Thank you. So, you know, I get up, and after she walks away, Kane goes and he says to me, if you're tired, you can lay your head back down on my shoulder. Maggie's just being so overdramatic.
You stupid.
Obviously, I did not accept the offer to lay my head back down on his shoulder after his girlfriend just yelled at me. Anyways, then Kane asked if I would mind if we listen to music instead of watching TV, and I say yes. And then he starts putting on a bunch of sad love songs. Sad love songs. Like, he starts playing Love Is by Tusi. And if you don't know some of the lyrics to that song, it goes, every time you give up on me, I will be crawling back like we made up. I just want to meet whoever made love because it hurts. By the way, if y'all are in your feelings and you are wanting to feel the heartbreak, like you want to feel that shit in your soul, listen to Tusi. He has some great songs that will make you just so depressed about your love life. Toosii. Like, you will be feeling that shit in your soul. Anyway, so yeah, homeboy's in his feelings, and I was definitely picking up on what he was putting down. You know, the fact that he was still upset about him and I not working out, but it is what it is. You have to accept it. You know, we gotta move on from this situation. Okay. So fast forward, we land in Miami, and I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't too thrilled that we had went to Miami for vacation, because I'm low-key an introvert, but I would say like I'm in the middle of an introvert and an extrovert, okay? Because I'll go out, but only whenever I'm with people that I know. And I don't like the third wheel, which is obviously what I'm doing, because then I have to find somebody else to talk to whenever I am not being included in the conversation. So, you know, then I'll try to find somebody else to mingle with, but yeah, I just don't like it. You guys get the point. Anyway, so I didn't want to bother Maggie and Kane too much, you know. This was their first trip as a couple, so I decided that I was low-key gonna keep my distance a little bit and try to find things to do by myself. I mean, I know I wouldn't have bothered Kane, but it was Maggie that I was worried about bothering, if we're being honest. Anyway, so fast forward, we get to the hotel, and not even 2 hours off the plane, there's already a problem. Like, this whole day has just been a shit show. The first problem was me falling asleep, having my head on Kane's shoulder. She actually had a long talk with me about this after we got off the plane, about how Kane doesn't like me anymore, and it's been 3 years, so I just need to give up and move on. I didn't care to argue with her about this because I didn't want to be with him. Like, honey, I'm pretty sure if I kept it together for 3 years, I can keep it up, like, seriously. So, you know, we get into our room, and all three of us were sharing a room, which I already had a feeling this was going to be a bad idea. I really just need to start trusting my gut, because it's always right. Anyway, so obviously they're sharing a bed, I get my own bed, and we're all getting ourselves set up, and I have my suitcase on my bed, and I'm taking the stuff out of my suitcase. And listen, I'm probably one of the worst people to pack. I don't know if this is a common thing, but I put all of my shit in sandwich bags, because one, I'm not investing in travel bags. Like, I don't travel that often, I don't need to do that. Anyway, so yeah, I have all my shit in sandwich bags, and I'm putting my stuff on the bed, and then Maggie comes over to me, and she's like, can you put your underwear and bras away? My boyfriend is in the room. And I'm like, dude, my underwear and bras are literally in a sandwich bag. Like, I'm not sitting here shoving them in his face or anything like that, you know? So now I'm just even more annoyed than I was earlier, because for some reason, everything that I do that she doesn't like means that I'm trying to steal her boyfriend. Like, y'all, we had dinner. We had dinner and we went back to the hotel room, and you know, they're in the bathroom, and apparently she wanted to do the nasty with him in the shower, but he couldn't get his friend to wake up. If you know, you know. So then I just hear them yelling in the bathroom, and you know, he comes out, storms out of the hotel room, slams the door, and then she looks at me and she's like, could you ask your parents to get you another room? And I'm like, why? What happened? And she's like, well, Kane doesn't feel comfortable having sex with me while you're here. I don't know what it is, but something about you just makes him uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh my God, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And I'm like, if he feels that uncomfortable, I can leave the room. And she pauses for a second to think of another excuse, and then she goes, he just doesn't feel comfortable, okay? Like in a snappy ass voice. And I'm like, okay. But I felt bad that I had to ask my parents, because the only reason why I went on this trip was because her parents paid for it. Like, my family does not have the money for this shit. My dad was just laid off, but I'm just like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll do it. And then even weirder, after I say that I'm gonna do it, she's like, actually, it really just doesn't have anything to do with you. I mean, you can stay if you want to, I just don't want him to be uncomfortable. And I'm like, okay. So I still go online because I'm like done with the situation. I'm about to book the other room, and she's sitting there, and it really looked like she was regretting telling me that the reason why her and Kane were having a hard time having sex was because of me. So then she's like, you know what, never mind. Like, I want you to stay in the room. Like, please stay in the room. And I'm like, no, I don't want to make y'all uncomfortable or cause any issues between you two. I'm just gonna get another room. Oh my God, and then sis goes off. She fucking loses her shit over nothing. She's like, no, seriously, you don't have to. And what makes you think that you would be able to cause any problems in our relationship? Our relationship is fine. You're not able to come between us. So fast forward later that night, we're all laying down, except for Kane. Kane came back in the room, and then, you know, he got into bed. Well, 5 minutes after he walks in the fucking door, I hear Maggie trying to get him to do the nasty with her, which, I mean, you know, period, go off. It's your boyfriend. But like, you just told me that he wasn't comfortable having sex with me in the room. And then I hear him say, what is wrong with you? We have somebody else staying 2 feet away from us. You need to chill. Oh my God. And then Maggie gets up and she's like, fine then, why don't you just stay in the fucking room with her and I'll leave. And then she storms out, and I'm like, what just happened? And he's like, I don't know, I'm going to bed. So then I run outside the room. I go and I'm like, hey Maggie, are you okay? Do you want me to get another room? And she's like, yeah, to be honest, you just need to get another room. Like, you're making Kane really uncomfortable. So I'm like, all right, like, fuck this shit. I was happy that she said get another room, because I was ready. I was ready for it. So then, you know, I go into the bathroom, call my mom, and I'm like, hey mom, can you take some money out of my savings for college and get me another room? And she's like, honey, like, I really don't want to do that. How about you go stay somewhere else, or you stay there for like 2 more nights and then you get a ticket home. We don't want you using that money for that. And I'm like, all right, whatever, fine. So I just get another 2 nights in a different room, and I wake up in the morning to a text from Maggie saying, I don't know what it is, but I really feel like you're trying to drive a wedge in between Kane and I. And I'm like, why do you think that? And she's like, well, why else would you go and tell Kane that I told you you were making him uncomfortable? Now he's pissed off at me for that. And I'm like, great, here we go again. And then she sends another text, and she's like, now Kane is mad at me because he thinks that I made you get another room when you really could have stayed in ours if you wanted to. And at this point, I'm literally so done with this bullshit. Like, I literally just want to go home. But we had reservations for breakfast at this one really nice place. So we go to breakfast, and to say that shit was awkward would be an understatement. Seriously. Nobody talked the entire time. And then I'm like, hey, like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. So I get up and I start walking to the bathroom, and then I all of a sudden hear Kane say, I need to go to the bathroom too. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Get him the fuck out of here.
Sit with your wife. Leave me alone. And because it was spring break and this was a popular restaurant, of course the bathrooms had lines. So then Kane starts trying to talk to me, and he's like, can I please pay you back for the room? I feel so bad that Maggie made you get another room. And I'm like, yeah, by the way, why did you tell Maggie that I told you that she was the one who made me get another room? And he was like, I never did that. I never told her that. I heard you in the bathroom on the phone with your parents talking about how money was tight and about how you didn't want to make me feel uncomfortable, which by the way, you weren't. Maggie and I have been having trouble having sex for a while now. I'm just not attracted to her and I never have been.
Oh shit, that's embarrassing.
And I'm just like, that's none of my business. And I go to the bathroom, walk back to the hotel, call my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I want to come home. And she's like, honey, like, we already paid. Just try to enjoy your time there. Just don't hang out with them. Go other places. Go do stuff. Go to the beach. Like, it's too late for us to get a refund. So I'm just like, all right, whatever. I'll thug it out. So later that night, I get a knock on my hotel room and it's Kane, and he goes, I broke up with Maggie. And I'm thinking to myself, why would you do that? And he's like, and I just want you to know that it's because I still have a lot of feelings for you. And I really hope that after this, you'll consider giving me a chance, because Maggie isn't even your real friend. You wouldn't be doing a disservice to her. She actually hates you a lot. Like, she talks shit on you to everybody. She even told Jada that you were trying to fuck her boyfriend so that way Jada would try to fight you. The only reason why Jada didn't confront you about it was because the boys and I told her that Maggie is batshit crazy and she literally just hates you. Which I did end up asking Jada about this later on, and she did confirm it. So that's cute. And then all of a sudden, I don't even know how this bitch got in my room. Maggie got into my room. Like I said, no idea how that happened. And she goes, of course this is the first person that you run to when we have an argument. Like, I should have saw this coming. And then she points at me and she's like, and you're probably loving this, knowing that you can come in between Kane and I. This whole trip, you've been trying to ruin our relationship. You've been trying to ruin our relationship since you found out that we started dating. And this is why I don't like you. This is why I don't trust you. This is why you're a bad friend. Da, 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 da. And then Kane goes, it's not her fault that I never liked you. You know that I'd never liked you. And every time that I would try to break up with you, you would guilt trip me into being with you. They were getting out some demons in my hotel room.
Got them demons fight.
And you gonna keep fighting them demons, nigga.
Take that negative energy. I don't want to hear. Anyway, so I look at both of them and I'm like, you both can figure this out yourselves. I'm going home. And that's exactly what I did. Thank God that I did not take really any of my shit out of my suitcase. I had it basically all in there, picked up my suitcase and left. I took some money out of my college savings to get an early flight home, and yeah. So fast forward 3 days, Maggie and Kane get back from their trip, and I haven't talked to either of them since, and neither of them have tried to get in contact with me. And there were about probably 3 days left until spring break was over. So, you know, I'm helping my mom clean up the house. We're getting some of my shit packed up for when I leave to go to college. And then all of a sudden my mom calls me into the living room and she's like, excuse me, why are there a bunch of hood rats standing on my lawn? And I look outside and it's Maggie and a bunch of her friends, and they're all screaming for me to come outside because they want to fight me. Yep. And my mom was like, what did you do to piss her off? And I'm like, Mom, when I tell you I did nothing, literally nothing. She thinks that I want Kane because he still likes me. And listen, y'all, my mom, she saw this shit coming from a mile away. Like, she really did. She even told me, like, 2 years before this, that him liking me before he liked her would be a problem sometime in the future. What do you know? She was right. Anyway, so I text Maggie and I'm like, can we just talk? And she's like, yeah, come outside. And I'm like, no, hell no. Not until all them little gangsters get back in the fucking car and leave.
Wait, who? Who?
Because when I tell y'all, these kids were dangerous. Okay, they went to our school. Half of them actually were graduated, but like, these kids were bad news. 2 out of the 3 of those kids got caught bringing a gun to school. Not to shoot up the school. It was because they were in gangs. Literally. It was just awful. So, you know, they get in the car. I walk outside and I'm standing 10 feet away from Maggie because I was not about to go anywhere closer to this psycho ass bitch. And I look at her and I'm like, Maggie, why are we letting this come between us? And she's like, I'm not. You are. Because you just can't accept the fact that Kane wants me and not you. And then I'm like, I don't care that he wants you. Great. I don't want him. And then she's like, why don't you want him? Are you saying that he's not good enough for you, but he's good enough for me?
Girl, shut the fuck up. I ain't gotta explain shit to you.
Because I don't deserve somebody who actually cares about me? Listen to me right now. At this point, I was really questioning the status of her mental health because when the fuck did I say that? Anyway, so at that point, I knew there was no talking to her anymore, and I was like, you know what, Maggie, I'm not gonna argue with you. Have a blessed life. And I turned my ass around and go to walk in my house and finish cleaning whenever all of a sudden this bitch literally shoots me in the back of the leg.
Got it! We cannot be laughing about this shit right now.
I felt the blood running down my leg, and my mom noticed. Yep, she fucking shot me. And then I hear my mom screaming, who the fuck gave this psycho bitch a gun? So now everybody in the neighborhood comes outside. Everybody. And you know, she's waving this gun around at everybody. She's pointing it at everybody in the neighborhood because people are, you know, coming towards her, trying to take it away from her, trying to get her to put it down. And she's screaming at everybody, telling them that if they go closer to her, she's gonna shoot them too.
Oh, yeah, no. Go ahead, tweak it. Come on, hold on. Go ahead, tweak it.
Well, fast forward, I go to the hospital. She was put into a mental hospital, and then she was put on house arrest. Yeah, only house arrest. And for myself, well, I survived a toxic relationship that wasn't even mine. And Kane and I are dating now. Well, not like dating. We're in like the talking stage. Well, we've been in the talking stage for a while actually, because we're afraid that if Maggie hears that him and I actually got together, because it's always the ones that they're telling you not to worry about, we're afraid she's gonna come back and actually murder me.
You better wear your bulletproof vest all day. Oh, motherfucker. Yeah.
Okay, everybody, that is the end of today's story time. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, maybe hit the subscribe button down below. And if you want to know whenever I post my next video, make sure to click that bell. And if you want to send in your anonymous story time, or you want to know how to send in your anonymous story time, make sure to click the links down below in the description. Other than that, I will see you next week with a new story time.